Sergeant Jesse Ramirez.
Thank you, Val. Good morning, everyone, fellow veterans, families.
You'll have to hold that closer to your mouth.
Of course.
Yeah.
Let me introduce myself. I'm Jesse Ramirez, retired Air Force and former Marine. I live here in Blue River. I'm a graduate from Riverdale High School in 1990. I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. I performed 6 years of active duty. In the United States Marine Corps, I was stationed in New River Air Station, Jacksonville, North Carolina. I worked on helicopters. I was,
You need to put the mic up.
okay, I apologize. Again, please bear with me. This is the first time I've done something like this in front. So I will get through this. By the time we get into to the end of this, I will have this down, and
That's better.
you guys will, I promise. Okay, so from 1990 to 1996, I was stationed New River Air Station, Jacksonville, North Carolina. I was CH-46 air crew, naval air crewman. I was on 3 Mediterranean expeditionary cruises, and I was a, again, okay, let me get it together. Mogadishu service when we were in Somalia, and then did the withdrawal of American troops from Somalia. So that was back in the 90s. So upon completion of my Marine service, I enlisted in the United States Air Force. Okay, so I worked out of Flanders Field from 1996 until my retirement in 2023. I was an F-16 hydraulic system specialist, and I was a member involved in many operations throughout the Middle East. Unfortunately, as we know, the way things happened after 9/11, a lot of our call was in the Middle East. Operation Northern Watch, Southern Watch, and dealing with our role of anti-terrorism and dealing with all of that. So that's kind of my little back history and how I ended up doing all of this. So Val wanted me to do a little speech on my role, on what I thought for Veterans, or not for Veterans Day, this is Memorial Day, I apologize. So, hero. Hero is a word that gets thrown around a lot with military service and veterans, and society likes to use that word a lot. And I'm going to go into what I think, how heroes work. So, society, again, likes to use the word hero, sports heroes, action heroes, political heroes, but is there any group more deserving of the title hero more than the 1 million men and women who have sacrificed their lives in defense of this nation? Including among them was a gridiron hero named Jack Lemus. Jack was an All-American football star, as well as a terrific center fielder for Baylor University. He attended a New York Giants training camp and signed with the New York football team as a free agent. He was playing his 8th professional football game when the scoreboard flashed that there had been an attack on Pearl Harbor. Jack knew what he had to do. After the team's championship game against the Chicago Bears, he enlisted the United States Marine Corps Reserve. It was as a Marine that Jack would go on from sports hero to a genuine American hero. He has since been inducted into the New York Giants Ring of Honor, but that was just a small part of the story. On February 19th, 1945, Jack Lemus was among the first to land at Iwo Jima. A leader of a Marine rifle platoon, First Lieutenant Lemus slowly but relentlessly advanced with his men against entrenched enemy forces. He disregarded his wounds inflicted upon him by grenade shrapnel and small arms fire. He neutralized enemy soldiers positioned in 3 pillboxes before eventually stepping on a landmine. Jack attempted to stand, even though his legs and lower torso were badly mangled. Rushed two surgeons who attempted to save his life, Lieutenant Lemus said, "Well, Doc, the New York Giants lost a mighty good end today." He died on March 8th, 1945, and America lost a mighty good hero. Jack was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. Lieutenant Jack Lemus was one of the most famous heroes of one of the most famous battles, but there are so many others that we can also remember. People who died while fulfilling their military missions. Navy Lieutenant Commander Lindsay Evans and Lieutenant Serena Willman conducted multiple combat missions against Houthi terrorists in 2023 and 2024. The aviators both earned multiple combat medals for their actions in the Middle East. On October 15th, 2024, the two trailblazing pilots lost their lives when their EA-18G Growler jet crashed during training exercise near Washington's Mount Rainier. Even within the safety of the United States, the military is an inherently dangerous profession comprised of professionals willing to sacrifice for us. Sacrifice for others. This is the final act of yet another hero. Army medic Calvin Bonite. "He died so others could live," said one of the eulogizers at a ceremony that occurred last year at Arlington National Cemetery. The speaker was not exaggerating. Specialist Bonite was killed in 1965 while protecting 4 of his fellow soldiers in Vietnam. He was posthumously awarded the Silver Star. Approval for a esteemed award was slow, a common practice for which most people familiar with the military medal process can attest to. As a result, his original gravestone had no acknowledgement of this Silver Star. It was through determination of other veterans that the injustice was finally corrected and his gravestone was updated in 2024. A native of Washington, D.C., Specialist Bonite lived only 24 years, but his legacy is still remembered 60 years after his passing. On the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund website, Bonite was remembered by his platoon leader. His fellow soldier wrote, "I witnessed Specialist 5's Bonite's actions, which resulted in his receiving a posthumous Silver Star. I submitted my statement for a Medal of Honor, but it was rejected since in the deadly confusion, I was the only witness to his intrepid gallantry. I will never forget these moments where a conscientious objector rose up and became a dynamic hero in the face of deadly odds." 50 years ago, the Vietnam War ended. Much like our withdrawal from Afghanistan, history will be kinder to those who fought the war than it will be to the policymakers who managed it. For it was the veterans, not the politicians, who gave us our freedom. The true heroes are not the quarterbacks who successfully executed Hail Mary passes or the baseball players who hit walk-off home runs. It isn't the Hollywood actors who looks good dodging imaginary bullets or fake explosions. It is the military veteran, the police officer, the firefighter, and the others who risk far too often and lose their lives protecting and defending all for us. The heroes that we honor today are not exclusive to any gender, race, or religion. They come from all economic classes, backgrounds. They hail from all 50 states, and some have migrated from other countries. They are a diverse group wedded to the belief that America is the nation worth dying for. The heroes that I mentioned had earned prestigious awards and military decorations, but just like the soldiers known only to God, countless veterans that not only have been recognized for their bravery due to lack of surviving witnesses who could only document their final acts, they are no less heroic. We are gathered so that we can remember their sacrifices and celebrate the fact that throughout our history, this great country produces such men and women of honor. We must not forget them. We should also remember the proclamation signed by a distinguished veteran in 1955. I, Dwight Eisenhower, President of the United States of America, do hereby proclaim Memorial Day, Monday, the 30th day of May, 1955, a day of nationwide prayer for permanent peace. It is a prayer that every American and every decent human should not just on Memorial Day 2025, but the rest of the year as well. Just remember that Memorial Day is not just the proverbial day to the kickoff of summer. As we get ready to kick off summer, just take a moment before we crack open that cold one and fire off that grill just take a moment to pause and remember those who have fallen before us to give us this freedom that we have. Thank you for being here. God bless.
On behalf of Courtney and I, it's a great honor to pay our respect to these veterans. Civil War soldiers, Thomas Wallace,
Alonzo Sawyer,
Elmeron Updike,
Cornelius Howard,
John Dillon,
Louis Crago,
Alan Greenfield,
Charles Kellogg,
Ulysses Hungerford,
next we have the Spanish-American War, Einar Gadiger,
George Leffingwell,
World War I soldiers, Joseph Shimpa,
Frank Taylor,
Leo Theodore Kincannon,
Henry Richter,
Peter M. Esser,
Ralph Kiefer,
Alfred Hegery,
Fred Taylor,
Russell M. Peer,
Joseph Shattuck,
J. Timothy Murley,
Neil Gaither,
John William Holbert,
Vane Peck,
William Nelson Gaither,
George Edwards,
Rudolph Jerome Caviz,
Frank Leslie Greenfield,
Joseph Trek,
World War II soldiers, Charles Adams,
Bernard Laverne Ing,
Alvin Scare,
Clemeth Francis Tisdale,
Clifford Bruner,
William Hayes Thomas,
William Giddings,
Ira Theron Clary,
Loyal Junior Paysalt,
Glenn L. Perkins,
Charles Emery Gore,
Jack H. Doherty,
John Kiefer,
Bethlyn A. Taylor Reckup,
Myron Reckup,
Robert James McGuire,
Loyal Herman Paysalt,
Gaither Merlin Randall,
Lester Leroy Halverson,
Robert Joseph Halverson,
Clifford Delbert Richardson,
Willis Hugh Powers,
Michael Esser,
Charles Willard Kellogg,
Burnell George Brown,
Clifford Edward Lemmerhurt,
Charles Chuck Searles,
Leonard Leroy Richardson,
Clifford James Frazier,
Henry Otto Gauger,
Frank Smith,
Charles A. Taylor,
Keith Edward McDowell,
Keith Laverne George,
Albert Ray Dearborn,
Donald Royce Benedum,
Clem Frederick Chitwood,
Francis Dale Derrickson,
Marion Mortimer Kincannon,
Wesley D. Updike,
Robert Updike,
James Lewis Wayne Sr.,
Clifford William Post,
Buford Harold Hanson,
Nathan Shaw Higgins Jr.,
Albert Matthias Hilberry,
Harvey Elmer Spaeth,
okay, serving in both World War II and Korean conflict, George Willard Bill Hudson,
Wayne Arthur Barnett,
and other Korean conflict era soldiers, James Tisdale,
Richard Adams,
Daniel James Morgan,
Richard Allen Wenzel,
James Leroy Teisver,
James Everson,
Ralph Leon Geist,
Lita Mae Broadbent Brace,
Christopher Columbus Faust,
Arthur Thingvold,
Kenneth Lyle Eng,
Roger Edward Garner,
Kenneth L. Lisney,
Rodney Bub Cunningham,
John Thomas Randall,
John Jack Kinney,
Dean Casey Mortimer,
Millard Frank Lawver,
Robert E. Lee Frazier,
Mervyn Shamate,
serving in both the Korean and Vietnam War, Melvin Albert Holmberg,
Carl Nicholas Bryce,
other Vietnam-era soldiers, Paul Leroy Brown,
James Gerald Enum,
George Roger Coleman,
Harvey James Ashmore,
David Martin Delaney,
Robert Briggs,
Gary Bruce Daughtry,
Melvin David Rowan Sr.,
David Arthur Adams,
Albert Clifton Rowan,
Ruth D. Perkins,
serving in both Vietnam and Lebanon Grenada era, Ronald McClymans,
in the Gulf War, David Allen Caviz.
may they all rest in peace. Thank you.
Please stand.